Tonight, a ruling drops, a tweet goes out, and suddenly, the press is out the door. A dramatic moment involving Donald Trump is raising serious questions about timing, transparency, and tariffs. Here's what happened. A federal court issued a major decision affecting tariffs first imposed during Trump's presidency, tariffs that reshaped trade policy and targeted hundreds of billions of dollars in imports, particularly from China. These were not minor trade adjustments. They were central to Trump's economic identity, a cornerstone of his America First platform, a policy he repeatedly defended as protection for American workers. So when the court prepared to release its ruling, all eyes were already watching. But then something unexpected happened. Before the court officially published its opinion, Trump posted on social media, confident, upbeat, referencing the tariff issue. The Democrat shutdown cost the USA at least 2 points in GPD. That's why they are doing it in mini form. Again, no shutdowns. Also, lower interest rate. Too late. Powell is the worst, President DJT. Minutes later, the court ruling became public. The timing immediately sparked questions. Was it a prediction? A prepared statement waiting to go live? Or did he know the outcome ahead of time? At this point, there is no public evidence of improper access. But in politics, perception matters. Federal court decisions are tightly controlled. Judges finalize opinions. Release times are scheduled. Public access happens simultaneously. Advanced leaks are highly unusual. So when a political figure appears to anticipate a ruling, even by minutes, it draws scrutiny. Not necessarily because rules were broken, but because institutions rely on trust. Then came the confrontation. Trump appeared at a public event shortly after the ruling dropped. Reporters were ready. They shouted questions about the timing of his post. They pressed him on whether he had advanced knowledge. They asked for clarification. And that's when the moment escalated.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. And I guess we're going to be asking the press to leave. And that way we're going to talk very candidly and take questions. I think at the end it wasn't supposed to be. I just said to Susie, what about questions? Sir, you can do whatever you want. I don't know if she says that to other people that she's represented over the years. But thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor. And the media, thank you. You can leave now.
President Trump at breakfast with the governors, you heard him there saying that he's going to deliver some remarks and then take questions from the room, not from the media, and then asking the media to leave.
As questions continued, he signaled to aides, and suddenly journalists were directed out. Cameras captured confusion. Reporters protested. The exchange ended abruptly. The questions unanswered. Now, it's important to separate fact from speculation. There is no confirmed evidence of wrongdoing. Political teams often prepare statements in advance for likely outcomes. Legal advisors frequently predict court decisions based on oral arguments and precedent. It is entirely possible the post reflected confidence, not inside knowledge. But removing the press instead of clarifying the timing, that shifted the focus. The tariff ruling itself was significant, yet the headline quickly became the optics. A tweet, a ruling, a room cleared of reporters. Tariffs have long been central to Trump's message. During his presidency, he argued that aggressive trade measures were necessary to counter unfair practices and protect American manufacturing. Supporters credit the strategy with forcing difficult negotiations and reshaping global supply chains. Critics argue the tariffs increased costs for U.S. consumers and triggered retaliatory measures from trading partners. Because of that history, any court decision affecting tariffs carries both economic and political weight. Markets watch closely. Industries watch closely. Campaign strategists watch closely. And so does the media. This moment wasn't just about trade policy. It was about institutional confidence. The judiciary must remain independent. The executive must remain transparent. The press must remain free to question. When those three collide, especially on camera, The impact extends beyond a single ruling. Even if nothing improper occurred, the sequence alone fuels debate. There are several possible explanations. 1, a confident prediction based on legal insight. 2, strategic messaging prepared in advance. 3, coincidental timing. 4, a misunderstanding amplified by social media speed. Until more details emerge, those remain possibilities, not conclusions. Opponents are already questioning transparency. Supporters argue the media is manufacturing controversy. And in today's political climate, even procedural questions can escalate quickly. The image of reporters being ushered out will likely circulate widely. Sometimes visuals shape narratives more than words. A court ruling with real economic consequences. A tweet posted moments before public release. Questions raised, access revoked, no confirmed misconduct, but a sequence that demands explanation. In modern politics, timing is everything, and tonight timing is the story. Stay with us as more details emerge. But this story doesn't end with a cleared room, because beyond the dramatic visuals, there are real legal, political, and economic layers still unfolding. Let's break them down. Federal court decisions don't just appear online randomly. They move through a structured process. Judges draft opinions. Clerks review language. Release times are coordinated. Until that moment of publication, the contents are confidential. That's why timing matters so much here. If a public figure posts confidently about an outcome before it's officially released, it naturally raises eyebrows. Not because predictions are illegal, but because early access to sealed judicial information would be extraordinary. To be clear, there is no evidence that happened, but absence of clarity creates space for speculation, and speculation spreads fast. There's also the strategic dimension. Political teams often prepare for multiple outcomes in advance. If advisors believed the court was leaning in a favorable direction, a celebratory message may have been drafted and ready to post the moment the ruling dropped. In high-speed media environments, being first shapes the narrative. Posting even minutes ahead of competitors can frame the story as a victory before critics mobilize. But when that post appears to predate the official ruling, it changes perception. What may have been intended as momentum suddenly becomes mystery. Then there's the economic ripple effect. Tariff rulings affect supply chains, import costs, manufacturing forecasts, investor confidence. When information hits the market, even seconds can matter. That's why courts guard release timing so tightly. And it's why any perceived information advantage, even if coincidental, draws scrutiny. Again, no evidence suggests market manipulation, but the principle of equal access to information underpins financial fairness. Now consider the media dynamic. Reporters were doing what reporters do, pressing for clarity. The questions weren't complex. How did you know? Was it a prediction? Who informed you? Instead of answering directly, the interaction ended. And when the press is removed mid-question, the absence of explanation becomes the headline. Sometimes silence amplifies a story more than words ever could. This moment taps into something deeper. Public trust in institutions has been under strain for years. Trust in courts, trust in government, trust in media. When a sequence of events appears unusual, people filter it through existing beliefs. Supporters may see confidence and media hostility. Critics may see evasion and opacity. The same footage fuels opposite conclusions. That's the reality of modern political polarization. For Donald Trump, tariffs were never just policy mechanics. They were symbols of sovereignty, symbols of economic nationalism, symbols of renegotiated trade relationships. From steel and aluminum to high-tech goods, the tariff battles shaped diplomatic tensions and domestic debates. So when a court weighs in years later, it doesn't feel procedural. It feels personal, it feels political, and it feels consequential. Several things could happen from here. 1, clarification. An explanation about the tweet's timing could diffuse much of the controversy. 2, escalation. Political opponents could call for inquiries, even if symbolic. 3, fade out. If no new information emerges, the story may gradually give way to the next news cycle, because in today's environment, attention moves quickly, but that image remains: reporters raising questions, a gesture from the podium, aides moving in, and the press exiting the room. Moments like that stick. They become replayed clips, shared posts, debated sound bites. Sometimes the optics outlast the policy itself. So what are we left with? a significant tariff ruling, a tweet posted just before public release, an unanswered line of questioning, and a room cleared of journalists. No confirmed misconduct, no formal findings, but a sequence that underscores how fragile perception can be when timing and transparency collide. In politics, it's not just what happens, it's when it happens and how it's explained. For now, the facts remain limited. The debate continues, and the footage speaks for itself. We'll continue tracking developments as more information becomes available. And there's another layer here that cannot be ignored. In today's political climate, speed is power. The first message often shapes the lasting narrative. By posting before the official release, Donald Trump effectively framed the ruling on his own terms, before analysts, opponents, or even full court documents could circulate. That matters, because in the digital era, perception can solidify within minutes. Social platforms reward immediacy. A confident post can energize supporters instantly. It can dominate trending feeds. It can preempt criticism. But when timing overlaps with institutional processes, like a federal court release, that same speed invites scrutiny. Was it anticipation, preparation, or precision timing? Without a detailed explanation, audiences are left to interpret, and interpretation divides sharply along political lines. Federal courts operate independently of political influence. That independence is foundational to public trust. Judges are insulated from electoral politics precisely to avoid the appearance of pressure or coordination. So even the suggestion, however unproven, that a political figure might have insight into an outcome ahead of time becomes sensitive. Again, no evidence has surfaced suggesting improper access, but the power of this story lies less in confirmed wrongdoing and more in unanswered timing. Then there's the visual. When reporters pressed for clarification, the exchange could have shifted the narrative. A direct answer might have redirected the focus back to the substance of the ruling. Instead, the removal of journalists created a second storyline: transparency versus confrontation, access versus control. For critics, it appeared defensive. For supporters, it may have looked decisive. But either way, it guaranteed the moment would circulate far beyond the room where it occurred. And remember, this isn't a symbolic policy issue. Tariffs influence real industries, manufacturers, farmers, importers, retailers. During Trump's presidency, tariffs, particularly on goods from China, triggered retaliatory measures and global negotiations. They reshaped supply chains and pricing structures. A court ruling affecting those tariffs carries tangible consequences. That's why markets watch closely. Moving forward, several developments could shape the trajectory of this story. A formal clarification from Trump's team explaining the tweet's timing, statements from court officials reiterating standard release procedures, political opponents amplifying the episode in campaign messaging, or the issue gradually fading if no new information emerges. In modern news cycles, momentum determines lifespan, but visuals, especially dramatic ones, tend to linger. This moment also reflects a familiar pattern. Trump's political brand has long involved confrontation with the media. By challenging reporters directly or limiting access, he reinforces a narrative that mainstream press outlets are adversarial. That strategy energizes core supporters. It also intensifies scrutiny from critics. So when this confrontation occurred, it fit into an existing storyline, one that both sides quickly interpreted through established lenses. At its core, this episode intersects three pillars: the judiciary, responsible for independent rulings; the executive, responsible for policy and messaging; the press, responsible for accountability. When those pillars collide publicly, even small irregularities in timing become magnified. The stability of democratic systems often rests not only on legality, but on trust. Trust in process, trust in fairness, trust in transparency. And once timing questions arise, trust becomes part of the conversation. So what remains unanswered? Was the tweet a calculated projection, a routine prepared response, or simply coincidence measured in minutes? At this stage, no definitive evidence points beyond strategic confidence. But without detailed clarification, the moment continues to invite speculation. A ruling that reshapes tariffs, a post that precedes publication, A press corps escorted out mid-question. No confirmed violation, no formal accusation, but a sequence that underscores how, in politics, optics can rival substance. The legal decision will shape trade policy. The confrontation may shape headlines longer, and the timing, those crucial minutes, remains the center of the debate. We'll continue following the developments, the responses, and any further clarification as this story evolves. A major tariff ruling. A tweet posted moments before it became public. Reporters demanding answers, and a room cleared before those answers came. No confirmed misconduct, no formal findings, but a sequence that has people asking questions about timing, transparency, and trust. In today's political landscape, moments move fast, but accountability and clarity still matter. We'll continue tracking every development, every statement, and every response as this story unfolds. If you want in-depth breakdowns, real context, not just headlines, and the full clips as they happen, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us, because when the next moment breaks, you'll see it here first.